following is a GNC podcast production. Welcome to Geek Addicts, a pop culture podcast.
Hello and welcome to Geek Addicts, the pop culture podcast where we talk about multiple versions of the exact same story. My name is Matt. With me, Bill Barber. How's it going, Bill?
Oh, it's going. I just recorded another podcast right before this one, so my voice is already successfully worn in, and I am tired because it's a Friday. So
Yeah,
you
I
know
wasn't
the
expecting to do
usual.
I wasn't expecting to do the opening this time, so I didn't have time to think of something funny for you. So
It's all good. Alex spent the last episode I recorded telling me that I'm turning 30 soon and I'm going to be old. And I've just responded by saying, I'm already old. I fell asleep on the couch an hour before recording. That's because that's just what people do now.
what's she trying to say? You throwing shots, Alex?
No, I just think Alex is just being Alex.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've been 30.
wait.
I've been 30 for what? How many? 3 months now? Something like that. I felt 30 for like the past 5 years, though.
Yeah.
Like that
Well,
much.
it's going to be the entire GNC team is going to be like 30, except for Alex pretty soon. Because Thrak turned 30 a while back.
Yeah, well, Alex is only a year younger than you, right?
Yeah, she'll be 29 pretty soon.
Oh, she's not even 29 yet. Wow.
Yeah. Well, technically, she's a leap year baby, so she could technically say she's like 7 or something like that.
Oh,
So,
wait. I forgot you told me that. Yeah. That's weird. No, it'd
yeah,
actually be younger than that, wouldn't it? Every 4 years, 30. She'd be like 5.
I think she's like 6 or something. It's been a while since I did the math, but yeah, she can
That's
she
fair.
can joke around with that whenever she wants.
So that explains the chaos.
No, that's just her being herself.
Fair enough.
Well,
So how's your week been, Bill? How you doing on your anime catch-ups?
this wasn't the best week. I only finished one show. Because this week, Monday I was kind of a wreck. I had a lot of stuff going on. Tuesday we did 3DO. Wednesday I had a weird kind of just day where I just didn't feel like anime. You know how you occasionally you'll just have a day where like you just don't feel like anime.
Yeah, for sure.
That was Wednesday. I just wasn't in the mood. And then I finished the show I had been watching yesterday. And I'll probably watch a few more episodes tonight because I think another Slime episode comes out tonight. I'm debating what to watch next because I just finished my most recent show. I'm not really saying what it is because it may or may not be part of the next anime swap coming up.
Oh, is it the one you mentioned earlier today?
Yeah, I mentioned in the Discords. You can
Okay.
find if you really want to figure out, you can do some investigating. The best way to find out what we're watching is to go into the anime gift space on the GNC studio and just look in the anime gift space and just see the gifts. Usually, what we're posting is what we're watching at the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sometimes,
Although, if that was an anime swap, whose pick would it be? Because hasn't Alex been into that too?
so that is Alex's pick. My pick is still a mystery right now. Well, I know what it is.
Yeah.
Alex knows what it is, but I haven't. I posted a GIF of it, so you can try to guess what it is through the most recent GIFs I've posted. If anyone really wants to figure it out.
Although I'm not 100% sure when this episode is going to be coming out. It might even be a month from now. So for all we know, that episode might already be out, or at least in the bag. Who knows?
It might. It depends on how long it takes Alex to watch the show I requested. So
fair,
because this is the rare time where I'm actually ahead of the game. So,
so I finally finished my One Piece catch up. I finished Wano, and I won't be touching One Piece again until Egghead is completely dubbed. So and that arc just finished in the manga, so it's going to be a bit. So yeah, that's finally under my belt, and I also finished rewatching Darker Than Black. I forgot how fucking amazing that show is. I don't know, it just has like a vibe to it, like kind of like Cowboy Bebop. It's a different kind of setting, but it kind of has a similar vibe to Bebop, where like it's isolated stories, but then there is like an overarching story happening in the background that comes to fruition at the end. Like I don't know, it's just a fun show.
Nice. I saw
And
the first. I saw the first episode of the next season of the Veroni Kenshin remake came out. I don't think the dub's out yet, but the first episode aired.
Right, I was gonna bring that up. Yeah, I just found that out. I think today actually that the first one came out yesterday in Japan. I think, which is pretty exciting. I didn't know it was that close, so that's pretty exciting.
Well, I saw a thing going around. I guess the author of the manga is going through health issues right now, so I guess all the stuff he was writing is on indefinite hold. And it's one of those cases where it's like, I don't really feel bad, but it kind of sucks, I guess, for fans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe Japanese fans. It's not like we were gonna get that anyway.
Well, we were still getting the fan translations over here.
That's true. That's fair.
It's funny though how many people were like, I just like the split between opinions on that was pretty interesting. I'm under the opinion where it's like, I think the guy's a piece of shit, but he wrote a really good story. So you have to kind of separate the art from the artist sometimes. But
Yeah,
I'm also not gonna like wish the guy's dead. I mean, he should probably be in jail, but
yeah, that's for sure. But I am excited for season 2 of the show because the first season was very good. I just started the Kyoto arc in the manga because I've still been reading that. Which is weirdly apt timing on that with the show coming back.
I just hope it does well because I really want the third arc properly adapted.
Agreed. It'd be interesting though that if it only ends up being a 3-season show. I mean, ultimately, like I think if they do 25 episode seasons for each one, or 24, whatever it was, it would still end up being pretty close to the length of the original. It wouldn't be quite as much, but it'd be close.
True, but I mean, to be fair, that last season is entirely pointless.
Yeah.
I also wonder though, are they going to cover like Trust and Betrayal again?
I have to imagine, because you can't really tell one story without the other.
Yeah, I'm just curious because like I'd like to see a modern adaptation of that, like in line with the current style.
But at the same time, the original Trust and Betrayal OVAs were just so fucking good. Like the animation was great, even despite the like weird like real life scenes that were kind of spliced in. But it's still, I don't know, like the original OVAs are beautiful.
They were, but they feel so weird next to the anime.
Yeah, for sure.
Back then,
it's such a different style.
I just like to see like a fully consistent, like beginning to end kind of series.
Yeah, for sure. What was I gonna say? Oh, I saw that Dragon Ball Daima is apparently going to be on Netflix, which I could be mistaken on this, but this might be the first time anything Dragon Ball has been on Netflix in the States.
Maybe. I think Evolution might have been on there briefly at one point.
That doesn't count.
I mean, it happened.
Yeah.
Toriyama was totally behind it at one point.
He was just being polite. Until the grace period went by, then he was honest.
I mean, hey, we got Battle of Gods out of it, so
yeah. Well, that's why I give it a pass for the most part.
The hair gel gag was funny.
Yeah, that's true.
That was
and the one head sliding meme like that. Every now and then that pops up, and it's just so fucking funny to me.
We'll cover that movie one day. Not now because that movie's a lot. But
yeah. So I did start another show this week. Actually today.
Oh yeah.
I started that vending machine show.
Oh, okay.
And I gotta say, Slade did not oversell it.
Yeah, that's what Alex was saying that too. Like it's not like the like fine art by any means, but it's surprisingly decent.
It's incredibly entertaining, and it's only a 12er, so I definitely recommend like that for at some point in the next couple months for you, because
When
I
I'm in
think
the
you
mood
would
for an
enjoy it.
isekai,
It's very
when I'm
fun.
in the mood for an isekai, maybe.
It's very silly.
Well, because it knows it's dumb. I think that's kind of like one of the reasons why it actually was entertaining. Because the
Oh,
ones
extremely.
the isekais I can't stand are the ones that take themselves too seriously.
That's fair.
Like I love the
Yeah,
ones where they're just stupid.
yeah. Well, there's literally like I won't go into too much detail, but there's a part where like the vending machine, because the vending machine guy, he can't communicate except for like the preset, like um little preset like messages, like, oh, insert coin into the slot, or yeah, thank you for shot, or thank you for buying, please come again. Like that's pretty much all he can say. So he kind of like arranges it so certain things are yes and certain things are no and stuff like that. Um, so like at one point, like the guy, some guy comes up to him and is like, hey, like, because he's like kind of like a leader figure in the town that they're living in, and he's like, hey, we're having this issue right now where we're getting a bunch of new people into the town, and we're having some issues with disease spreading and stuff like that. We didn't know if you'd have anything that could help with that or whatever. And he fucking starts ejecting condoms. And they're like, what is, because it's like a fantasy world that they're in. They're like, what is this weird substance? Like, I don't know, it's just fucking goofy as shit.
See, I'll probably watch that after I watch Slime's finish, just because I can only do one isekai at a time. But
That's fair. That's fair. It definitely has
I,
like a similar a similar humor to it. Just definitely leans more into the goofiness. Like Slime has its
well,
serious moments.
the best isekais are the ones that know isekais are dumb. Like to me, I still think like peak isekai to me is like Konosuba, or like That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, where they're fully aware isekais are stupid and they just kind of run with that. Like the ones that take it too serious, like one for me that fell off super hard was like Rising of the Shield Hero, where like the first season's great and it just takes a dump in quality after that. Like season 2 is a mess, and then I just couldn't care by season 3.
That's fair. Yeah, I was considering checking that one out, but I don't know.
If you consider it a one season show, season 1 is great.
That's kind of like how Darker Than Black is. It's like
Yeah.
the first season was fantastic. Second season, well, to be fair, like I would like to give it another watch. It is a complete huge like tone shift. Like it could be a completely different series.
Mm.
Like the way that everything shifts in that story. But I would like to give it another shot just for posterity's sake, to be fair. Because my tastes in anime and stuff has changed over the years and whatnot. So I mean, I might like it more than I used to, but I know I'm not gonna like it more than season 1, because season 1's just great on its own,
Yeah.
and it probably should have just been the one season, but whatever.
Yeah, it's funny how taste changed like that, because I mean I watch mostly like rom-coms and fucking romance animes these days, just because that's how tastes are these weirdly.
Well, you get to a certain age where you kind of just want to watch something casual. You don't want to get involved in like, oh, like battles to end the world and blood and gore and craziness. I mean, I like that stuff here and there, but like, there's only so much I can do at once.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like sometimes you just get tired of buff men beating each other up after a while.
True. This is true.
But
yeah.
Yeah, I gotta work through a few more. It's funny, I'm on a break from manga right now just because of like trying to catch up on the anime stuff, but I do want to start reading again because there's a bunch of series.
I've been reading pretty consistently. It's been kind of mostly just been shifting between the 3 series, the Kenshin, Slump, and Berserk. With the exception of like, my weekly shows like One Piece, Spy Family, Boruto. Well, I mean, they're not all weekly, but you know what I mean? Like ongoing series that I'm caught up on.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I just have a hard time multitasking on stuff. Like I usually get sucked into one hobby at a time. So like when I'm in anime mode, I'm in anime mode. When I'm in reading mode, I'm in reading mode.
Oh, I just see somebody beat my record or my the game club
for fastest completion time. Yeah,
yeah. You
yeah.
got it in only 3 days. I announced it
Tony,
on the first. By the third, it was done.
yeah, Tony coming in from the top rope.
Yeah, for real.
Speaking of anime discussions, though, we also recently released our second collaboration over on Superpod Network for favorite anime arcs.
Yes, we did.
I love how you guys, you, Aaron, and Mo, like did like all like serious like animes, and then I did Kaguya-sama.
Fair enough. I mean, Trigun. I mean, I know like the one that he mentioned specifically, and that one was like the end, which is the more serious parts. But Trigun as a whole is a very light show for the most part. Like it has its serious moments, but it keeps itself easy going for the most part.
Yeah, I like the banner he made for that one because it's all like typical shonens, and then it's just like Kaguya-sama. Just such a different. I mean, technically, Kaguya-sama is a shonen, so
that is true. It is true.
It's like
I don't even know because I know we're gonna do more of those, and I'm like really questioning like what.
Yeah, because I
want
have
to do next.
I'm not sure either because like we already talked about earlier, but Inuyasha's like not really a arc based show, so like I don't think I could really cover an arc from Inuyasha.
Well, I mean, there's definitely a couple of things you could do with that.
True, like I could do like Band of Seven,
like
maybe
Band of Seven, or even just the final act on its own, or
true, or like the filler school festival arc. That's always a fun one.
Yeah, that's true. And we don't have to just stick to like best anime arcs either. Like we talk to Aaron about like switching it up and do like worst anime arcs or anime filler arcs or something like that. Even though the first one I did wasn't, or actually both of the first ones we did were filler arcs.
Yeah, we both covered filler arcs that were good.
Filler arcs of Dragon Ball.
We can talk. I'm sure we'll have more ideas for that because I want to do more of those in the future.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I enjoy them.
Yeah. Other than that, though, not a ton's going on. Just trying to get through it.
Yep. But I mean, I finished 2 shows this week and got most of the way through a third, so I'm getting there. Getting there.
Nice. I gotta get back on a few more probably this weekend, next week, because I gotta pump that list up because I don't want to be embarrassed by Alex and Slate again.
Oh, and I did start watching a little bit more of Bleach as well. I at least want to finish the arc that I started before I put it down again. But I do want to go through the rest of that at some point. Probably not this year, but
I still got to jump back in and finish Boruto at some point. It's like one of those things where it's like I see it there and I'm just like, I know I'll get to it eventually.
Have you gotten to the stuff where Kawaki shows up yet? I feel like I asked you this because once he shows up, I feel like things will pick up for you a bit based on what I read in the manga.
The last arc I watched was the one where they're in like the prison.
Yeah, see, I don't know.
Yeah. It wasn't bad, but it just was long. It was right after the time travel arc.
If it didn't happen in the manga, then I have no clue.
Yeah. Most of the show, probably.
I mean, honestly, I know you're committed to finishing it because you just have that kind of like completist mentality, but honestly, you'd be better off just reading the manga.
Well, I have all the box sets, so I have to sit through it at some point.
True.
Oh, but speaking of things that aren't a slog, depending on who you ask, Dragon Ball movies.
Indeed. The last 2 of the OG movies.
Yes. So in the previous episode, we had covered. My phone is pooping on me. We had covered Curse of the Blood Rubies and Sleeping Princess in Devil's Castle.
2 very mediocre movies.
Yeah, I remember thinking the Blood Rubies was okay, and then I thought Sleeping Princess in Devil's Castle was pretty lame. Mostly because it just kind of redoes the Krillin arc, but somehow worse.
I mean, it had some of its entertaining moments, but it just didn't have that Dragon Ball aesthetic to it.
Yeah, it was very meh in a lot of
A
ways.
lot of lumpy demons. They're all very lumpy.
Yeah. Um. So going on now to the movies for this next arc, we have Dragon Ball Mystical Adventures, the first one. Um.
Which this is actually the only one of the OG Dragon Ball movies that I watched in my childhood. And even that's a stretch saying childhood because I didn't actually watch it until I was like maybe 13 or 14.
Yeah. This one was interesting to me because like it was just kind of there, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because the first two movies, like the first movie covered like it was like an alternate telling of the first arc, which is, what, like 13 episodes, 14 episodes. And then the second one was like a weird retelling of basically like 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Like that little like meeting Krillin and like the little training arc there. But this one is like a retelling of like 70 episodes after that. Like it kind of just like mashes all of that together in like a weird way.
They also include like a rally because for some reason.
Well, I mean, I can kind of see why. Because especially at this point, because by this point in time, Dr. Slump had been over for a bit, like both the manga and the anime, and it was still huge in Japan.
True.
And when these movies were coming out, these weren't like feature films that were in theaters. They were shown at film festivals, usually in like groups of like 3 or 4. They'd have like one from each different show that they were trying to showcase. They would kind of be ways of trying to get newbies into these different series.
Yeah.
So having a Raleigh in there was probably just a way of trying to draw in some Dr. Slump fans.
True. So it's interesting because like I was looking at the voice actors for this movie. This movie was Goku's voice was a weird one of the. So it's the same actress who played him in Sleeping Princess and Devil's Castle. I'm gonna probably butcher this. Siley Del Delgadillo is her name, apparently.
Hmm.
She had only voiced Goku in this movie and the previous one, which leads me to believe these were recorded at some point before the series. Like they had, Funny had actually dubbed OG Dragon Ball.
Yeah, I if I remember correctly, I want to say that yeah, that's about right. Like they had started doing Z, and that's why all the other characters are the same, but they hadn't done OG yet.
Yeah, because we had mentioned previously that Blood Rubies was actually dubbed like way later, like after it came out. That's why they had Colleen Clickenbeard do Goku at the
Yeah.
time, and it uses most of the modern actors. So that's my guess is these were recorded together before they had actually dubbed OG. Because like the rest of the cast is like Chris Sabat is Yamcha, Tiffany Vollmer, Bulma.
Mike McFarlane's Master Roshi.
Yep. Does Roshi even appear in this?
Yeah.
Does he? Oh,
Yeah, because they were training with him at the beginning, and then he took him to the tournament.
He's got such a minor role in this whole thing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's still a bigger role than it was in the last movie, but still.
Yeah, like he's not even. I'm looking at the main cast, and he's like not even listed in the main cast. That's kind of.
I find it interesting with the first 3 Dragon Ball films because they all kind of follow their own canon, whereas like none of the Z films really, except with the exception of maybe Broly, none of the Z films really do that. Where like each one of the Z films is kind of like its own isolated story,
Yeah.
with the exception of Cooler and Broly. But with the OG Dragon Ball films, it's like each film is continuing off where the last one left off.
Yeah, they're like in their own little bubble of like an alternate universe because this one is like essentially we had mentioned earlier. It basically covers Red Ribbon Army and the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament, like heavily abridged.
It's weird, yeah, because it kind of like combines the first two tournaments because it's set up where this is happening where the first tournament would have happened in the series, but Tien and Chaozu are there. But Chaozu isn't a fighter; he's actually an emperor,
Hmm.
which I believe actually caused some confusion. Because if you
Yeah.
think back to the old Z dub, uh, after the Frieza arc, when they're wishing everybody back with the Namekian Dragon Balls, the narrator calls Chaozu the young emperor, and that caused a lot of confusion over the fans.
Oh, okay. This is why I got confused. The list I'm reading doesn't list the characters by their official names. Like the English names are kind of moved in different places. They have Roshi listed as Kame Sennin.
Oh, okay,
So, yeah, that's why I didn't notice him at
gotcha.
first.
Gotcha.
Uh, fun
But,
stuff.
but no, this is definitely the most entertaining out of the original three, for
Yeah,
sure.
this is the
It
one that
feels the
actually
most Dragon Ball.
does stuff because, like, Blood Rubies was met, and then Sleeping Dragon I thought was boring as fuck.
Yeah.
Um,
Things moved very quickly in this movie, for sure.
they did. This one was over before I knew it, which I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not, to be perfectly honest.
Honestly, I feel like this one could have used a little bit more time.
Yeah, because
At least another
it's
15 minutes.
yeah, because it's only 46 minutes. It's pretty short. It's basically just 2 episodes of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, which I mean is pretty consistent with Dragon Ball films at the time.
True.
Um, the next one being an exception because that one came out during GT run.
Yes. Yeah. The following film is it's completely its own thing.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was because I like the way this film starts, where they got the theme song going, but we're getting like a little training montage with Goku and Krillin
Mm.
instead of like the usual opening scene. I thought that was really well done.
Did you notice the Pilaf gang is in this, but their voices are completely wrong?
I I knew they were in it, but I didn't hear them speak.
So I noticed it right away. Like Pilaf is voiced by Mike McFarland, which is completely like what
That's really weird because Chuck Huber is in this film. He
he
plays
is.
the Crane Hermit.
I forget who voiced Shu originally. Because he sounded
I
kind of
couldn't
as
tell you.
apparently it's Brian Thomas in this, and then Cynthia Kranz does Mai, which is completely like when I heard it, I was like, what? Like that's just weird.
Yeah, that's
Um,
weird.
they probably just it was whoever was on hand, I guess. Well,
Mm,
also they hadn't established the voices yet, probably, so they just
that's
used.
true. Yeah, because the Pilaf gang weren't they weren't in Z at all, so they wouldn't have been like legitimately cast until they started dubbing OG.
Yeah, so that probably actually does make sense. It was really funny hearing it and being like, wait a minute, that's completely wrong.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, I loved Launch in this movie.
Yeah, it was fun
Even just
actually
like
seeing her.
going back to like her first scene in the film where they're taking the plane to the tournament. And she just like starts like kind of freaking out. And she's just like, I just have this uncontrollable urge to hijack this plane. And everyone around her is just like horrified.
Yeah, and this film came out in '88, so yeah, that's pre 9/11, 96, I guess, around
It's
or whenever.
considerably pre
Yeah,
9/11.
nowadays that would have been cut out. um,
Well, maybe not in Japan.
well, in Japan it would have been left in, but if this movie was dubbed circa 2002, that would have been removed.
Yeah. Um.
um,
So yeah. I guess we should give a basic rundown of the setup at least. So Chaozu is the emperor of like the country or whatever they're in. They didn't really specify what he's the emperor of, but he's an emperor. Um, the Crane Hermit and Tao and Tien all work for him, like directly. But it's pretty obvious that the Crane Hermit is like up to some shit.
yeah,
Especially since like at the very beginning, because you find out that that Chaozu's wife is missing. Which, first of all, what?
yeah, wife.
And second of all, and then the reveal with that at the end is just fucking ridiculous.
I know.
Um,
When I got to that point, I was like, wait, what? I was like it was like one of those like the calculations are just going around your head, and you're just like, like
Yep.
just trying to figure it out. Like, wait a minute.
But like even going back to like one of the first scenes we have with all of them, where Blue walks in, which he was demoted in this movie, by the way. I thought that was
Yeah,
weird.
I noticed that.
But he walks in and he's like, "Look, I don't trust these guys over here. Like, you shouldn't trust them either. Like, they are clearly shifty." And their response to that is to immediately kill him. And Chaozu didn't think that was weird.
Chaozu
Like, he
is
is
such a
outrageously gullible in this movie.
yeah, he's like so off character, which is bizarre because I mean his character in the show is pretty minimal as it is. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
this one is
basically a child.
yeah. In this movie, the whole time I was like, it's like this is definitely a take. Like that's for sure.
Yeah, I did like that they brought the whole like killing him with a tongue thing back, but at the same time, it's like I just find it weird that he didn't find that odd at all. Like it immediately points suspicions at them, and they're like, "Oh, we're just gonna kill him right in front of you," like, and we're
Yeah.
just gonna sweep it under the rug like it's no big deal.
I will say I did enjoy Mercenary Tao being back just because he's like one of my favorites from the original show.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, he was one of the best villains.
I mean, I'll never forget him just fucking pulling the fucking tree stump out of the ground, throwing it, and then just jumping on it as a means of transportation. Like it's just
which
such
he
a
does in this movie.
yeah. When I saw that, I was like, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. One thing I also did notice that, well, first of all, Bora and Upa are in this movie, and the story kind of revolves around them because they bring the Dragon Ball into the equation, the 4-star ball specifically. And I did notice that despite this being like an early 2000s dub, they refer to them as natives and not Indians, and I thought that was really for the time, like that was kind of big, like because at that point in time people were still saying Indian.
Yeah,
People still say it now, depending on where you look.
true. And honestly,
So,
Four Kids had some questionable moments around this era too. So it was like that's pretty surprising, actually.
yeah. So it's definitely interesting, especially since like this would have been around the time they were dubbing Yu Yu Hakusho, and that show is not politically correct.
No, not at all.
So I just find that interesting that they did it that way.
I mean, to be fair, when it comes to dubs, like Funny is probably still one of the least politically correct these days.
Yeah, that's
I think
that's probably
probably
true.
probably only Sentai is less politically correct than Funny at this point.
But so yeah, the basic story is that Chaozu is trying to find his missing wife. So he was informed that Dragon Balls exist, so he sends his army out to look for the Dragon Balls, and they are, being shitty as armies in anime tend to be. But he's completely clueless about that because that's the Crane guys doing. And the only Dragon Ball they don't have is the one that Bora and Dupa have, and eventually they made up with Goku. Bora is killed by Tao, just like in the show, even though it happens differently.
Yeah, he gets to live a little longer this time.
Slightly. They did kind of censor his death, though.
Yeah.
And then, long story short, there's a big fight, and they get all the Dragon Balls and happy ending.
Yeah. This movie's plot is pretty nothing.
It's pretty bare bones for sure.
The action and writing in between makes up for it.
Yeah, a lot of the character interactions are really fun.
Yeah.
Like I said, I really like Launch in this movie because there was this one point in the film where Bulma, Launch, Puar, and Oolong are trying to get into like the palace to get the Dragon Balls from them. And Puar and Oolong disguise themselves as the Emperor and the Crane Hermit. And then Bulma and Launch are just kind of with them. And they like bump into some people and they're like, "Oh, are these your new girlfriends or whatever?" And they're like, and Bulma's like, "No, we're actually nuns," even though they don't look like nuns at all. Like Bulma's like wearing like a crop top.
Bulma's like the last person who should be considered a nun.
Seconded maybe only to Launch, who is also there.
I think Launch could
And
pull it off more than Bulma. That's the sad
maybe
part.
blue-haired Launch at least.
True.
But Launch's response to them saying that they're nuns is to get in their faces and then say, "Hey, how about a donation?" And then she rips their necklaces off of them and say, "Yeah, this will do."
Launch is a great character that I really wish lasted more than fucking the original series.
I wish Toyotaro would bring her back. You'd think, a longtime fan like him, you think he would have brought it up at some point.
Toriyama forgot.
Yeah,
All
but
he
did
did.
Toyotaro?
Well, he didn't, but Toriyama writes the scripts apparently. So
Well, not anymore.
true.
R.I.P. I'm still waiting for that fan theory to be proven true that Launch is actually the mother of Android 17's children.
That is a
Imagine
fan
that.
theory.
Imagine that. That'd be wild. Although it still wouldn't be the weirdest pairing in the show.
True. Well, I mean,
Trunks and Mai. Trunks and Mai.
You know, at least Trunks and Mai has development.
Fair.
I still think Bulma and Vegeta are the most forced relationship, even though they have grown into something decent over the years.
Yeah, well, they only paired off because we needed more Saiyans.
Yeah. Toriyama's like, need more Saiyans.
I was like, shit, I need another baby machine.
Bulma. Oh, what, Yamcha? Who? Fuck him. Move on.
Nobody cares about him. I've already moved on from him at this point. Bulma's going to as well.
Yeah. I will say, Trunks and Mai is random, but at least it's developed. It's got more developed than most relationships in this goddamn series, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, actually, both versions of Trunks and Mai have more development than most relationships in the series, except for maybe like Krillin and 18 and like Gohan and Videl. Those are like the only other two pairings that might like come close to with the amount of development they have.
Yeah, I mean, Krillin and 18
I still think Trunks and Mai has gotten more time though.
Trunks and Mai has legitimate character development, like in like relationship growth throughout that arc, which is hilarious in a lot of ways when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Krillin and 18 was mostly hinting, and then Videl and Gohan have development. That's fair. Like, they're probably the only other ones.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
more than
all in all,
it's more than you want to get married. Oh, that's yummy.
Yeah, right.
Classic.
Yeah, I'll try that next time. In like 15 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, the movie's very enjoyable. Yeah, definitely too short. I loved like comparing the show to this movie, Aralé's appearance in the show where like the enemy they were fighting was Blue, who while he was definitely threatening at points, he was still a pretty goofy character. So like the comedic scenes kind of fit with that. But with this time it being Mercenary Tao that Arale was there for, I feel like the comedic moments, like the gags, worked better because he's such a serious character.
That actually is something I really did like, just because like one of the best parts about Mercenary Tao in the original series is the fact that he's this like super serious guy, but he's constantly having to deal with Goku's Goku-ness, and he just doesn't know how to react to Goku. And then you have Arale, who is like even more fucking like unhinged than Goku is at times.
Yeah, for real. Like I love the scene where he's like getting ready to square off with Goku, and he like jumps at him, and then he just gets like, pretty much just caught in midair because they like sneakily tied his ponytail to a tree.
Yeah, just
that was a funny gag. I like that.
Goofy shit like that is partially why I love OG Dragon Ball in particular.
Yeah, for sure.
That I will say, this film is probably one of the best. Like, if you want to just like introduce someone slowly to like original Dragon Ball, this is probably a good movie to show them, because it's not super deep into the main storyline. Like it's just removed far enough that you could probably like, if they watched that and then started from the beginning, they probably wouldn't remember by the time they actually get these events in this show.
Yeah, I'd say if you're talking OG Dragon Ball, like if you want to get them accustomed to like the style, the animation of it, like the general presentation of it, this is definitely the one I would show.
Mm.
That being said, the following movie, I feel like kind of like introduces the concept of the show. But if you watch that film and then you go back and watch episode 1 of Dragon Ball, you'd be like, this looks and feels very different.
Yeah, I guess like I'll give ratings after we cover both of them, but I think we should probably talk about Path of Power now. Um, Path of Power is a weird movie. Like not
Yeah.
not bad, but it is weird.
Well,
Like
I believe it was supposed to be a 10-year anniversary movie.
yeah, because it came out way after the third one. Like
Yeah. And I mean, you could tell just by looking at the animation style. Like, it is very clearly the same animation style as GT, which I mean, you can kind of tell by the music in it because
yeah.
the music is GT music.
So for context, Dragon Ball Path to Power came out after Wrath of the Dragon.
Mhm.
So all the Z movies had already been finished by the time Path of Power came out.
Yeah, which I don't know. It kind of had like a weird. Like, I don't know. When was the first time you watched this movie?
When we watched these for the last episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd missed this one because this one got dubbed back in the day, but I just missed it for whatever reason. I guess because these movies weren't the easiest to find.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah, I don't think it was until like the little movie pack came out that it was really like easy to get them all.
I will say something that's very interesting and it's kind of surprising. This is the out of the 4 Dragon Ball movies, this is the only one that features Stephanie Nadalny as Goku.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why I tend to prefer this one over the others.
Not that the lady that from the previous 2 films was bad. It was just we're so used to Stephanie's voice that like anything else just sounds weird.
Yeah, anything else is just hashtag not my Goku. So
Well, because like in Blood Rubies, Colleen, it's Colleen Clickenbeard. Not the whole time. I'm just like, it's just Luffy. It's literally just Luffy.
yeah, which I like Colleen Clinkenbeard as an actress. Don't
Oh
get
no,
me wrong.
she's a
She does
great
great work.
actress.
She does great work. She just isn't Goku. And like I know there might be some bias in there. I know I went through a lot of that with when Kai came out, and Gohan's voice is different, and Frieza's voice is different, and Bulma's voice is like eventually I came around to a lot of those, but Kid Goku is just one that I could never
I
I
mean,
just can't with that one.
I'm not the biggest Monica Rai fan or Rael fan, but she's close enough to Tiffany Valmer that you can get used to it.
And she
Uh,
has kind of made the role her own
she
over time.
has, she has. I still will always have a soft spot for Tiffany Valmer, though.
Agreed.
I mean, as much as I love shit, I'm forgetting her name. Who was Frieza originally? It was
Linda Young.
As much as I love Linda Young's performance, though, like Chris Ayres is just
Yeah, that was definitely the more accurate Frieza, in my opinion. Like that was like if we were going to have just a straight up English version of the original Japanese actor, Chris Ayres was it.
Chris Ayres also just really he made that role his own, which is it's so
Mhm.
tragic that what happened.
Yeah, for sure.
That being said, though, the usuals are here. Like Yamcha is obviously Chris Sabat. We still had classic Oolong, so Brad M. Jackson, Mike McFarland as Roshi.
Tiffany
Other than,
Ballmer, of
yep,
course. Yeah, I think
Sonny.
this is like the only Dragon Ball, like OG Dragon Ball film where we had like Tiffany Ballmer and Stephanie Nadalny.
Yes, I believe so because this is the only one Stephanie did, and I believe Tiffany was in the previous 2. Sabat's been in pretty much all of them.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
I think Brad M. Jackson's been Oolong in all of them, which is really weird
I
because
feel like
well, no,
Crystal Blood Rubies was the other guy.
yeah, that probably was. But I forget that one was done so much later.
Yeah.
That was probably How am I forgetting his name? Because we just talked about him in the Bakano episode.
Yeah, last week we talked about him. Was it like Brian Massey? Was that it?
Brian Massey, yeah. That's his current
Yeah.
voice. I mean, they're basically the same voice.
Which is weird because it flip flops with Oolong. Because sometimes it's the original voice. Because with Battle of Gods, it was the original voice, and then it switched back to Brian Massey for a while. So it's, I don't know, it jumps back and forth with that one. Oolong's a weird character like that.
Yeah.
So this film kind of goes right back to the beginning of the story by retelling the original arc, but by kind of combining the original arc with Red Ribbon. So it's like it is the original arc, but the main villain is Red Ribbon, and it has elements of the Red Ribbon arc throughout.
Which was really watching these all together at once, but it was a little annoying because like Blood Rubies kind of also does the start of Dragon Ball as well.
Yeah. Although this one does it way better.
Oh, this is the best looking OG Dragon Ball product, just in general.
It's also the best, like structurally, like telling the story, the pacing, the general presentation of it is just very good.
The only appearance of purple-haired Bulma in animation,
which is supposed to be her canon hair color.
Yeah,
which I believe is why Trunks had that color hair originally.
Yeah, now they fucking fucked it up so hard that nobody knows anymore.
I know, it's ridiculous. So how do we want to cover this one? Because we've kind of already, with the Curse of the Blood Rubies, we kind of already covered a lot of those bases.
I mean, it is kind of hard to say because it's literally just OG Dragon Ball beginning again. Only it's got very pretty animation this time.
Yes, I think this is probably the best looking animation. Like when I say animation, I mean like classic 2D animation that Toei has ever done. Because once we got into the 2000s, we started moving into like more digital stuff, CGI stuff like that. So like this is, I think, like peak like traditional animation for Toei.
Yeah, honestly, because when I think Dragon Ball animation in general, like I've been actually thinking about this. I'm pretty sure this is the best looking thing they've ever produced, aside from maybe the Brawly film, like later on, but that was digital.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing against digital. That film is fucking gorgeous.
There's a certain element to like traditional hand-drawn animation, though, that you can't recapture that with computer generated.
Well, because it's
no matter how pretty a movie is,
like just for reference, like some of the shows during the transitional period where they went from hand-drawn to digital, like Inuyasha was actually a good example of that, because Inuyasha, you can tell distinctly when it goes from traditional to digital.
The
animation shift is pretty noticeable.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of shows during that era. Like Naruto was a big one. Like Naruto was one of the big like starting animes where they were really starting to lean in more into computer animation.
Yeah.
So I mean, they do kind of twist the story up a little bit. Like, we have the beginning, which is pretty much the same. I mean, obviously, like some of the dialogue is different, and they probably just did that just to kind of
not be
smooth
redundant.
it over a little bit. Yeah, exactly. I did like Goku and Bulma's meeting in this version.
Yeah, it wasn't as goofy as it has been.
Yeah, I love how she's just like the way that she's like trying to convince him to give her the Dragon Ball is like, I don't know, the way she said it made it seem like she was propositioning him, not just offering him a peek like she does in the show.
Yeah, she was a lot more direct this time around, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah. She says something like you give me the Dragon Ball and I'll show you how boys and girls are really different. And he just goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, slim and curvy. Why are you showing me your butt?
Yeah. I mean, I do like his original line where he's like, I don't want to see your dirty butt.
Yeah. It was pretty great.
How old is Bulma in this? Is she 14?
16.
16, something like that?
16, I'm pretty sure.
Because Goku's like 11 or something.
He'd be 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Depends. I don't know when his birthday is, but he'd be either 11 or 12.
I mean, to be fair, Goku probably doesn't know when his birthday is either.
Well, actually, canonically in the series, he thought he was 14. But then later on, when he was learning with Master Roshi and Krillin, he figured out how math works and figured out that he was actually 12.
Good old
Which I
Goku.
thought was pretty funny. So I liked how they implemented a lot of the Red Ribbon stuff. Like I think we didn't really start getting into that until they met I went to like Muscle Tower, which I noticed some of the character designs changed for the Red Ribbon characters. Like Major Metallatron was very different.
Yeah.
That was actually interesting because he was featured in both of the films that we're talking about this week, and they are very different character designs.
Yeah, it was really funny going from like watching the first three and then going to this one and be like, wow, you could tell this one was made at a different time.
Yeah, for sure. And then what was is it Captain White or Colonel White or whatever his name was? He actually looked like the guy who shot Boo's dog in this film for some reason. It doesn't look anything like his actual character design.
Part of me wonders if they were trying to redesign them or they just were too lazy to remember and they just made new designs.
I don't know. I will say I did like that they redesigned Staff Officer Black and made him a little less racist looking.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that.
I still can't believe that was his name, like in the original series.
Yeah, well,
like
it was a different time.
I get it.
The 80s.
The 80s plus it's Japan, and Japan's like 20 years behind culturally at times.
Well, to be fair, the way that they portray Black people is kind of our fault. Well, America's fault, I should say.
True.
Because the only references they really had for a long time were like our old comic strips from like the 20s and 30s, which weren't very flattering. So
yeah, that's true.
It's kind of America's fault that ended up happening.
I know. I can't believe they named him that though. I can't believe the dub kept it that way, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
Like I could understand Japan doing that, but I'm amazed Funny like just let that slide.
Well, I mean, this was also the time where they were kind of like
they didn't
kind of finding reasons to push the envelope because dubbing wasn't taken super seriously at that point.
Fair, and a lot of people, to be fair, people would have complained that they changed it because people complain when it's not the original source material. Period. So
people complained about the fucking frame ratio or whatever the fuck. Like,
yeah,
people complained that they tried to make it like widescreen, which I mean, it does look like crap on the orange bricks, but still, like that was like a big, like, oh, we need it 4:3. That's the only way we can ever have Dragon Ball. It's like okay, I don't think it matters that much as long as it's not cutting out half of somebody's face. It doesn't really matter how much of the TV it takes up, but whatever.
Yeah. It's really, that's the one thing about this film. Like this film is very enjoyable to watch, but it is so hard to explain what's going on because it's literally just kind of a retelling.
I'll say one thing that this film definitely did that I don't think anything else Dragon Ball has ever done is it made Yamcha seem threatening for about 3 seconds.
That is true until he wasn't.
Yeah, he was threatening for like an attack, and then he noticed Bulma and immediately just like dropped.
Oh yeah, because he was afraid of women for a while.
Yep.
That was the thing. It's sad that the most threatening Yamcha ever was is when he fucking sucker punches Chi-Chi that one time.
Yeah, right. We also had a pretty decent fight between Android 8 and Goku, which never happened in the original series. And I kind of liked, like, he looked threatening, which was really interesting because he's never really been that kind of character.
Well, I just love Android 8 as a character in general. So anytime he shows up in anything, I'm always super happy. Like, I mean, his appearance in fucking the Goku Black sucked because he literally stands on a fucking cliffside and just goes, huh? Like 3 times.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I did like that that he was a much more major character in this movie.
Well, he's such an
Um,
interesting difference compared to like the general androids in the series because he's legit just a nice guy, but he's programmed to be evil.
yeah, there was some funny running gags in this movie as well, like how the turtle was obsessed with correcting everybody that he was a tortoise, not a sea turtle.
Yeah,
It just kept
yeah,
doing it over and over again, and then eventually he was like, "Well, good thing I have this turtle shell." And then Bob was like, "Wait, I thought you were a tortoise." He's like, "Whatever."
yeah.
Like
He just
eventually he's just
doesn't.
like, "Whatever, who cares?"
Yeah,
um, and the gag about when Roshi was going to reward them by making them all immortal,
yeah,
and then Tortoise was like, "Oh, the bird of immortality died of compounded food poisoning last year." He's like, "Ah, shit, that's right."
yeah, yeah. They threw some zingers in this one. Like the OG Dragon Ball just has that inherent funniness to it. That
And of
like,
course, they had to do the gag where Goku took off all his panties.
yeah. They also had to have Bulma flash Roshi again.
Well, yeah, I mean, you couldn't have one without the other. It's just kind of
See, they need to do it like the NES game Dragon Power, where it's just an orgy of sandwiches.
yes, there's sandwiches everywhere.
Uh, I love that.
I
I both
do,
love and hate that game.
yeah. Um, did you notice how when it was showing like the big like futuristic looking muscle tower, you could see the original muscle tower in the background?
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting like blink it or miss it thing.
Yeah, I like. There's been a lot of like throughout this movie. There's a lot of like little things like that. I didn't really appreciate all the fan servicey like Bulma panty shots though. I mean, like
Yeah,
obviously, like yeah, there's like the like canonical stuff, which was really meant for laughs, but there was a lot of like upskirt shots like randomly for no reason.
yeah, and it's worse because she's 16 in this one.
Yeah.
Like this is like
Ugh.
kid Bulma. For some reason, they do that more when she's a kid than she's an adult. Yeah. Anyways,
Japan.
yeah,
Their statute of limitations is much lower, or what? Not statute. Age of consent is much lower in
yeah.
Japan.
See, that's why I appreciate Rumiko Takahashi so much because she had a fucking mandate in her fucking scripts that you could not see under Kagome's dress ever,
Mhm.
which was good because we don't need
Yes,
that.
I appreciate that. Um,
Now,
but I mean,
groping Sango's butt, on the other hand.
despite that though, I do think that this is one of the best Dragon Ball films. Period.
Oh yeah, no, just from a visual standpoint, it's so fucking beautiful. It is a easy film to watch, like beginning to end. There's no slow points. It's if you haven't watched original Dragon Ball before, it is a great film to watch. I think the previous film is a better example of what OG Dragon Ball is like, but this is a great film just in itself as a standalone product.
For sure. Like even just like the little scenes, like when Goku and Ader were having their little snowball fight, like that was just
Yeah.
such a heartwarming moment.
This was
And you don't
also
really
like
get stuff like that very often.
hmm, this was also some of Funny's best voice work. Like Stephanie
Yeah, well,
Nadalny does great
yeah,
work. Tiffany Vollmer's always great. Sabat was really finding his own.
yeah. By this point, I feel like they were pretty settled into their roles. I don't know exactly when it was dubbed, but I know that it was far enough along where they were very familiar with their characters at this point.
Yeah, everything was at least established. Like they weren't still in that pre-ocean, well, the post-ocean pre like really settling everything phase that they had going on there.
Yeah, for sure. They really like amped up like the dramatic like for instance the first Kamehameha, like that was way bigger and more intense than anything we saw in OG Dragon Ball.
Yeah, OG
Like
Dragon
even
Ball, the
I was gonna
the
okay.
I was gonna say in OG Dragon Ball, the Kamehamehas were always super slow. Like every time they say one, even like in the final battle with Piccolo, like they're so slow.
Yeah, so actually that's what I was gonna say is even like when Goku pulls up the super Kamehameha, it was even like it was less intense than the few that we see in this film.
Hmm.
And then at the end where Goku's fighting against Black, eh, anyway, when he's fighting against him, and Ader goes and defends him, and he dies and everything. Like he's powering up. Like that is a fucking straight up like end of Z power up scene. Like I like literally the first time I saw this movie, I thought he was about to go Super Saiyan. I was about to be real confused. Like
Yeah.
that's how intense it was.
When Ader died, I was like, it actually did emotionally hit me, even though I kind of knew he would be back.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you've seen the show, but
and I'm glad that this movie gave Ader that stuff, because like I always felt that Ader was extremely underutilized in the series, and I really wish he had been kind of around more.
yeah, because other than his main arcs in OG Dragon Ball, he only really appears. He's got that one cameo towards the end of Z where him and Suno give energy to Goku, and then he stands on the cliff and in Super like a dumbass for like a couple scenes.
Yeah, it doesn't even say anything. Just,
no, he goes, huh?
yeah.
Like,
and I think we saw him for like a couple episodes during the King Piccolo arc, but that was filler. Like that wasn't part of the manga.
true.
So
He is he's in Kakarot a few. Like he has a couple of side quests in Kakarot, which is nice.
Yeah, well, everyone's in Kakarot.
True.
So I don't know. It's just one of those things where I really appreciated that about this film, because he was definitely one of those characters. I think that's probably why they did that with him too, is because I think even they knew like he is such a popular character, and everybody had that kind of soft spot for him, even though he really wasn't in very much of the series at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because he was the first android. Like, even though
Yeah.
he's technically Mechanical Man 8 and not Android 8, he's
Mhm.
he's the first one of the Red Ribbon line. But he's also like immediately likable. Like he's got a cool design. I mean, he's basically Frankenstein. He's a monster, but
Mhm.
like fun.
Yeah.
And he's just a generally nice character, like with a great arc.
Yeah. Toriyama wasn't very subtle with his inspirations.
No, not at all.
Like Ader is just Frankenstein. Major Metallitron is just the Terminator. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
he's not very subtle.
That being said, though, out of the 4 Dragon Ball films, original Dragon Ball films, these 2 are definitely the strongest ones. Like they're definitely rear. The strengths are towards the rear half.
Yeah, for sure.
If I had to rank all of them, I'd definitely say Path to Power is the best one.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think it's kind of like it's Path of Power, then what's the previous one called again?
Mystical Adventure.
It's Path of Power, Mystical Adventure, Blood Rubies, and then the Sleeping Dragon.
Yeah.
Sleeping Dragon was just meh.
Yeah, it's just not very good. Yeah, that's definitely how I would rank them for as far as like an actual rating. I mean, Mystical Adventure, I'd give like maybe a 7.5. It was entertaining. It could have used more time for the characters, and that's probably what dragged it down as much as it did. But otherwise, it was a fun movie, and I enjoyed it. Path to Power, on the other hand, it's easy 8.5. I'd even go as far as giving it a 9. Like it is one of the best Dragon Ball films, period.
So I'm pretty sure on the ranking sites I gave. Let's see, what did I give these films? Wow. So I gave Mystical Adventure a 7. I gave Path to Power an 8. I gave the Blood Diamonds a 7 as well. I'd actually probably bump that down to a 6, to be honest. And I gave Sleeping Dragon a 5.
Yeah, that's about right.
But yeah,
all right.
I mean, they were good films overall. I enjoyed my entire time with them. I won't lie though, other than maybe Path to Power, I probably aren't going to watch these again anytime soon.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at with the OG movies. It's like if I'm gonna watch OG Dragon Ball, it's like I'd rather just watch the series, because it's all the same, just told better with more time.
honestly, because like thinking about it, like the Z movies, there's a few in there I would watch routinely.
Well,
Um,
that's where the Z movies have an advantage over OG is because the Z movies aren't like retellings. Like they are kind of because you can find correlations with the Z movies based on like where they would take place in the series, but it's not just a straight up retelling. Like Curse of the Blood Rubies and Path to Power are both just straight up retellings of the first arc. Whereas something like Cooler is like it's definitely in reference to and it references like Frieza stuff, but it's very clearly separate from it.
yeah, it's the arcs are very much kind of like they're like intended to be kind of like adaptions of stuff from Z. Like it's kind of like how Fusion Reborn is it's Janemba is essentially the Boo parallel to the films.
But it does its own things that make it unique, which
It
I
does.
appreciate.
Like they all feel unique. Like I still will sit down and watch Fusion Reborn. I'll watch Super Android 13 for his Texas accent. Um,
Yeah.
I'll still watch Tree of Might. I'll watch World's Strongest.
Mm-hmm.
I'll even watch like Lord Slug every now and then.
Well, with the American music for sure.
Hell yeah. So much fucking that shit's my jam, like, so I'm all into that.
For
But
real. For real.
the only like honestly the only Z movies I tend to avoid are like I don't watch Brawley's Second Coming because that movie's a fucking boring. Bio Brawley I only watch if I'm really interested in watching some shit.
See, Bio Broly I like for like the slice of life moments. Like the Broly part is inconsequential. Like it could have been any old blob monster and it wouldn't matter. So
well,
I
it's
just kind
like
of like treat it as separate from Broly itself.
you get the cute like Android 18 and like Goten and Trunks stuff. It's because it's one of the few movies that focuses mostly on 18, which is actually kind of cool. But the thing that sucks about it is they're literally fighting a shit demon the entire time.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we'll probably cover these more in depth later on in the podcast.
Oh,
But
for sure. Yeah.
honestly, out of all the Z films, the one that feels the least interesting to me, like just inherently from a plot standpoint, is probably Wrath of the Dragon.
I don't know. I liked Breath of the Dragon.
It's
Honestly, for me personally, I dislike Tree of Might the most. I don't know why. That movie just doesn't do it for me.
see, I can watch Tree of Might just because I kind of I like him so much I forgot his name.
Turles.
I like Turles as a concept because it's essentially like if Goku was a villain.
Hmm.
Um, that being said, though, like Wrath of the Dragon's fine. I feel like it's nothing really happens in it, like other than that doofy part at the end where it's like, look, guys, this is where Trunks got his sword, and it's like that doesn't
Yeah.
make
I
sense at all.
No, I for sure. Well, I mean, there is well, we could talk about it more when we get to it, which will
Yeah,
be a while from now. But I do have an argument for that, so we'll
true.
leave that at that. We'll leave that at that for now. But I feel like Wrath of the Dragon has a decent original story, and it is an original story. Like it's not
It
really like
is.
based on
It's.
anything before it.
I
So
will say though, you got some classic Toriyama reusing designs because the original character for that movie is literally just Chrono with a bad haircut.
yeah, it's Chrono with a Supreme Kai haircut.
Yeah, it's like not even like subtle.
But I mean, I like that character. I think he's fine. I mean, he's one of like the most like beloved in the fan base for like non-canon characters. He's right up there with
True.
PyCon.
I mean, I think that's why people love Fusion Reborn so much because fucking PyCon's in it, even though he spends the entire film yelling at a wall.
I mean, that's like one of the best parts of that movie.
True. I mean, that whole movie's great. I love emo Vegeta. Vegeta is so emo in that movie. It's not even funny.
Yeah, because I don't know. I know we're getting a little off topic, and we're gonna have like a full on discussion about this like down the line. But I do love that PyCon just kind of swoops down like while they're fighting Janemba, and it's just like starts yelling at him, and it's just like, hey guys, he has this very obvious weakness that you should have figured out by now. Like,
Yeah. And then he goes away, and then they fuse.
yep. But yeah, Yeah, I'm looking forward to
Classic.
getting more into those later.
Yeah, it's sad that my favorites are kind of more towards the end, but that's kind of how you get through Dragon Ball films. But
Yeah.
I guess other than that, that's pretty much it. I guess we're kind of closing the door on OG Dragon Ball for the time being.
For
Well,
now, at least. I'm sure we'll maybe eventually come around to the manga, but
yeah, maybe sometime down. I mean, we might do a full-on retrospective of the series itself at some point.
yeah.
Or maybe we'll talk about like origins if we want to.
Yeah, we'll see about that. That would require me to actually play through those games.
Yeah, they're not the best.
Fucking
But
touchscreen controls.
yeah. But yeah, so once again, guys, thanks for joining us on Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. And be sure to check us out over on the Superpod Network. That's superpodnetwork.com. It is an awesome site where you can find a whole bunch of podcast shows, blogs, a whole bunch of fun stuff, including a bunch of shows like Superpod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, Tommy's Video Game Ride Along, A Novel Console, Bar Silence, Fine Time, the Elder Trolls Gaming Podcast, Remember 64, Gaming Together, Friday Night Gamecast, and of course the 3G&C shows. We got Gaming and Collecting, the 3DO Experience, and of course Geek Addicts. But anyways, guys, once again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you all later.
Have a good one.